There's a pretty good chance that you've seen this article circulating around the internet. A condo developer plans to buy $1 billion worth of single-family residential real estate throughout Canada and convert it into rental housing. I actually had 4 separate people send me this article, so I figured I'd make a video and share my thoughts on it. Because initially when I first read the title, I had 2 immediate trains of thought. Number one being, wow, this is going to be amazing for the rental market here in Ontario, here in Canada, and all the cities that this condo developer plans to invest in. And the other train of thought being, oh no, this is not gonna be good for the residential real estate market. So that's what we're gonna be talking about today. But before we jump into it, if you're new here, what's up? My name's Andre. I'm a real estate agent here in Simcoe County. If you find this video valuable or entertaining, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you're curious to know about more real estate related content or information that I'm associated with, details are in the description and more on me at the end of the video. Take a read through the article if you haven't already, but to summarize it, Core Development Group Limited, which is primarily a condo developer here in Ontario, what they essentially want to do is take $1 billion worth of capital, worth of cash, and invest it into standard residential real estate. Whereas in other locations such as America, these corporations normally focus on multifamily or apartment buildings. What this condo developer wants to do is start investing into standard residential real estate. I'm talking townhouses, single family detached homes, which is the most primary one. And what they want to do is they want to take these properties, convert them into multifamily living. So looking for properties that have access to create a separate entrance to the basement and have multifamily living, one tenant on the bottom, one tenant on the top, and then rent them out. And there's just a couple quotes that I want to read out loud here from the article that paints a pretty good picture of what this project may encompass. A Toronto condo developer is buying hundreds of single-family homes in Ontario, intending to rent them out and take advantage of the housing crisis ravaging the country. Institutional home rentals have become very lucrative in the United States, with private equity firms, pension funds, and large corporations pumping billions of dollars into this asset class. In Canada, big budget investors as well as real estate investment trusts have already acquired hundreds of apartment buildings to take advantage of the strong rental demand, but have not moved into residential housing. And this condo developer asked the question, why has this not happened where there's a rental vacancy of less than 3% since the turn of the century here in Canada? Unless your rental is grossly overpriced, there's a very good chance that you can find a tenant for your investment property. Whereas in the States, we have rental vacancies of over 10%. You might put a property up for rent and it might sit there for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And in that case, you're losing money because you're paying the carrying costs. But in Canada, a rate of less than 3%, there's a very good chance that you're gonna find a tenant for your property. And this condo developer plans to purchase or is purchasing properties in Kingston, St. Catharines, London, Barrie, Hamilton, Peterborough, and Cambridge to start off with, and then looking to move throughout Canada into Vancouver, Calgary, Alberta, and other areas as well. So I'm gonna do my best to keep this video brief and to the point because I think it could be a very, very long conversation. But overall, I am a little bit against this happening, at least to the extent or scale that this condo developer wants to take it to. $1 billion worth of capital, worth of cash being poured into the residential real estate market is one thing, but $1 billion worth of inventory being taken away from the residential real estate market in a situation where we already kind of have a shortage is a completely different scenario. So let's talk about the negatives first. And I think the first one that obviously comes to mind is inventory. If this money, if even a portion of this money is poured into any type of market, and this inventory is taken off that market and then converted into something different, this may very well push prices even higher than they already are. As we've clearly seen this past year, and we already know, the real estate market is as much about numbers as it is about just basic supply and demand. And the less supply there is with the same consistent demand, the higher prices are gonna go. That's what we had a couple months ago. We had virtually no supply at all, but an outstanding amount of demand. Now it's cooling off. We have a lot more supply coming. However, if this does go through and over the next couple years, we have a corporation pouring $1 billion and taking this inventory off the market and renting it out, which they're probably gonna be holding on it for years and years instead of just flipping it and selling it, the lower inventory that we're gonna have, there's an even higher chance of prices to incrementally start rising again. Unlikely at the rate that we saw, but very likely to rise because the inventory is gonna be low. And these buyers, these first-time buyers, repeat buyers, local investors are no longer gonna have access to the same amount of properties because you're gonna have a company that has a lot of money coming in there, picking up all the properties that they want, or at least for the numbers that works. And what we're left with is just a smaller piece of the pie. Negative number 2 is the fact that they are a corporation. They care most importantly about their numbers, aka cash flow, aka money. You're no longer John Smith, who's a hardworking tenant that's saving up to purchase their own property one day and is just getting started on their career. You are now a number on a spreadsheet, a very small number on a very, very large spreadsheet. And I bring that up because in some cases, and I've seen this quite a few times, the landlord, when it's just an individual, maybe an investor that has a couple properties, I've seen cases before where the landlord understands the tenant and you have a great relationship, and maybe there's a hard couple months. The landlord, if they're reasonable and they're kind and you guys have been on good terms, will say, you know what, man, don't worry about it. It's fine. I understand, COVID hit, things happen. When that translates over to being a corporation and you as a tenant living in a property, being a number in spreadsheet comes up as red or being in the negative, you're now coming up against a corporation that has resources such as lawyers that will very likely do their best to make sure that that property or that specific investment is in the green and not in the red. Ultimately, it comes down to the fact that the purpose of it is for them to make money off you. And I know there are professional management companies that kind of already do that, but this is a totally different scale, a much, much larger scale. And something tells me that they're going to do their best to make sure that their investments turn green or cash flow as early as they can, especially after they've purchased these properties, because it's not good on anyone's spreadsheet, any corporation spreadsheet, to sustain losses for like 5 years before they even turn a profit. In that case, there's no point in doing it. That's why there are other corporations that have considered investing into standard residential real estate and renting it out on a large scale here in Ontario, here in Canada, but they just never got around to doing it because of the price points and the margins that we're working with. So in this case, very likely that if you're going to be living there, renting there, it might be a professional management corporation that they hire. They might create their own to do it, but very likely they're going to be doing their best to make sure that they're cash flowing on their investment as soon as they could be, or as early as they can. Which leads me to negative point number 3, and that is the potential for having a rental market monopoly in any given city or area. I know this probably isn't really that likely, but just hear me out on this. If this company comes in, if I, for example, have 300 investment properties in any given market, 300, that gives me the power to artificially manipulate the price, because as we're seeing, especially in Barrie right now, and probably in Toronto as well, there's also a shortage of not just real estate, residential real estate, but also rental housing. There's like, for every one rental that comes up, there's like 4 or 5 tenants that now have to compete for it. What's stopping this company from just not renting out those properties for a couple months? Let the demand build up for tenants and rentals, and then rent these properties out for an even higher price than they could have initially a couple months ago. And it's possible to do that because you own so many units, right? Because you can just clearly say, you know what, I don't want to rent out my 10 units that leased up. Now that's 10 tenants that have to go bid or compete for other properties. And as that builds up, you could very well have a monopoly. And we already know rental prices are pretty high. They have risen on freehold properties a lot faster than they should have in last year, especially in the pandemic. So there's a potential, there's negative potential for that to happen. It's unlikely, but it's something to consider. And just to continue with my point on that, another quote from the article: so far this year, Core has spent $50 million on 75 properties. Now, I'm not superstitious or anything, but funny enough, I just divided to see what potentially their average cost per unit or cost per property might be, what their numbers might be for looking for, what they're looking to purchase and convert, what's the price range for it. And if you take 50 million, which is a crazy number, divided by 75 properties, the average cost per unit comes out to $666,666. $666,666.667. Not superstitious. I just thought that was funny that it came out to that. And executives said that their 2-bedroom basement apartments cost about $1,600 per month, and 3-bedroom above ground unit costs about $2,100 per month. Now, those may seem great. That's obviously an average. In Toronto, they're probably much higher. In Barrie, they're much higher. It's an average throughout Ontario. But these prices are higher than the average rental rate of $1,407 for a 2-bedroom apartment in Ontario, according to CMHC data. And although Core rentals are newly remodeled units with homes and gardens, my point with this is, okay, yes, they're remodeled, yes, they have gardens, but overall, they're a business and they're in it for the money. So yes, newer rents for more, but I don't think this corporation is going to be coming in here and giving everyone a rental discount and lowering rent overall. That's just not in their best interest. They care about the numbers. They care about the money. They're not going to be dropping rental prices. the best that might happen is that they're going to be offering new rentals, new inventory for the same price, if not a little bit higher, because they're remodeled and they're newer. Now let's talk about some of the pros, some of the benefits for a company coming in here and investing this money into standard residential real estate. And obviously the biggest one that comes to mind is more inventory, more rental inventory. And I think this one is a very big one that kind of outweighs a couple of the negatives on it, because especially for those people just starting out, maybe moving, starting careers, I think it sucks and it's wrong that right now you have to compete for a rental. Not only do you have to compete to get a house, which prices are just going higher and higher, you now potentially have to compete to get a rental, right? You're just starting off, you have to compete and you're getting the lower quality rentals because there's not enough to go around. The fact that this company might be coming in here and increasing the overall supply, that is a pretty big benefit to consider. The second positive or benefit here is that there's a very good probability for better services or better management of these rentals. Obviously, since it's a big corporation and not an individual landlord, they're going to either hire a professional management company to, handle with the tenants, find new tenants, deal with problems, different things like that, or create their own in-house. You're not gonna have to wait 3 weeks to get your AC fixed. You're gonna have a professional company, a plumber's gonna be in there next day, and it's gonna be just more overall better service. So here's my overall conclusion on this. And as I've written these points down and said them out loud, it's pretty clear that this project is targeted towards the demographic that will be looking towards renting as their primary means of housing for the foreseeable future, for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. Obviously, it's targeted towards this demographic because if there was no value in it, if this company couldn't come in, take these properties, renovate them to multifamily, and rent them out for a reasonable amount of money, and they're losing money on it, there's no sense in it. So they're obviously providing value towards that demographic by offering more inventory, potentially better management. But for the real estate purchasing aspect of it, unfortunately, I don't think this fits in well with the already unaffordable price tag and extremely high barrier to entry to get into the real estate market in Ontario, throughout Canada, for first-time home buyers, especially buyers that haven't purchased in a while. But we're gonna have to wait and see how this pans out, because this was just recently released in the news. It's a big goal that they'd be trying to hit. Maybe they change it up. Maybe they decide not to invest the full $1 billion. Maybe they decide to invest more. We're not gonna see or feel those results until at least a year or two later, once this inventory is purchased, off the market, renovated. We're gonna see what the rental market is gonna be like. Is there gonna be an abundance of rentals? Is it gonna cool down? No more competing for the same rental. And then once we shift over to maybe the spring or summer market again, where there's generally more buyers out than in wintertime, we're gonna see, are we gonna feel that lack of inventory because this company is coming and purchased all of it, as opposed to where we are now? Or is it gonna remain steadily the same because sellers might decide that, hey, there's a company buying up, maybe they're gonna pay a higher price for my property, let's list our home, and then that gives more inventory, not just to the company or the buyer looking, but to everyone in that current market. So we're gonna have to see how that goes. And again, we're not gonna see that until probably a year or two after it's already happened, or this shift and this company's already started to buy these properties. But it comes back to a quote that I've said quite a few times on this channel, and that is, don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait. Because it seems like that homeowners, people and individuals that own property, are the ones that have the upper hand in this situation. If a company comes in and starts buying it and prices go up, the homeowners, the people that own property, they're benefiting from that appreciation, not the potential tenants that are going to be renting at these properties just because they're newer. And it seems like that's not going to be changing anytime soon. So if you are looking to stay in a certain area for less than 5 years, yes, don't get a financial liability on yourself. Rent. However, if you are looking to stay in the next 5 years, as this project maybe goes into play or does not go into play, it would seem to be beneficial to own a property and potentially benefit for that appreciation that might happen from this company pouring $1 billion, almost said million there, $1 billion into Canada's standard residential real estate market. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some value or entertainment from the video. If you are looking to buy, sell, or invest in the Simcoe area, potentially purchase a property for yourself in Barrie, because that's where this company wants to invest in, before they start spending racks on properties here in Barrie and force some appreciation into it, then make sure to, or feel free to reach out to me. Contact information is in the description down below. You can check my website, phone number. I reply to every single email. On top of that, I do have a weekly email that I put out. So we do a real estate market update for the city of Barrie. I'm going to start doing Simcoe soon, but we look at new freehold properties, sold freehold properties, new condo listings, sold condo listings, photo of the week, listing of the week, different things like that. Super cool. Gives you a pretty good idea of the Barrie market and what's going on. If you are interested in that, the link to sign up that is also in the description below. And make sure to check out one of these videos here for some more awesome real estate content from me. Click on it. Click on it.